Hello everyone. So in this series we'll be learning about Vue 3, what it has to offer. And before diving into any of the content, I would like to answer one of the questions that some of you might have, which is why should you give me your time and study from me? I came up with solid 6 reasons, but I would like to go through three this time. Uh, I won't be just teaching you syntax. I won't be opening a VS Code straight away and installing Vue and just start writing code. No. We'll be going through the theory of why Vue exists. We have React, we have Angular. Why should you even bother to like get to know Vue and like what advantages does it offer and why are several developers using it till this date, right? And it's actually there are major production systems that actually depend on this Vue. So what advantages are they getting and why do they choose Vue over React and Angular and so on. So all these questions will be answered, and we won't be just covering theory. We'll be actually opening the VS Code, seeing the code work live in action, and it'll be a fun journey. At the end of the series, if you want some projects, we can cover them as well. Now, jumping to the first chapter and answering the major question, why does it even exist, right? So it all starts with a person called Even Yu in 2014. He used to work at Google, and he wanted a tool to rapidly develop a prototype for a UI. Now if you're a developer and somebody assigns you some task where you have to develop some UI really quickly, in 2026, you have a lot of options. You have Angular JS, you have React, and there might be some other frameworks as well. And I mean, you can straight up go and ask Claude to build something for you. But at that time, in 2014, Angular JS was also there, and even you had basically all these options as well at that time. But they are not similar options that we have today. At that time, AngularJS was very large and clunky, and React.js was fairly new at that time. So, what he did was he extracted parts that he liked from Angular and built something lightweight. So, when we'll be diving into Vue and its actual code base, you'll see a lot of similarities between Angular JS code as well as Vue code. And you don't need to worry about knowing Angular straight away. When we'll be coding, I'll show you some samples of how Angular is written. So you don't need to worry about anything actually, right? So just a point of history: first code source code was released in 2013. Second, Vue came out in 2014. So the details, if we dive in, he wanted to quickly prototype a large UI interface. He didn't want to write lots of repeated HTML. Angular was widely used at that time. React was just starting. There was another thing called backbone.js. I don't have actually much information on what happened to it, but I mean, you can dive deep into that. It was used for large scale applications with model view controller architecture. I mean, if you want to deep dive on that, you can do that as well. But again, the point here being that he wanted to actually quickly prototype a large UI interface, right? So he then started to think like come up with his own thing, and this is how he actually came up with the name Vue. So he started with the name c.js and discovered that it was already taken. So he opened Google Translate, typed in Vue because Vue.js mainly focuses on the view layer, which is like the UI layer of the application. He switched to French and then found Vue, and that's how he decided that okay, I'm gonna call this Vue.js. Simple. At that time, again, Vue. So there was another pointer why Angular was not like a good option at that time. Angular had undergone major changes. It left developers dizzy. React was new and exciting, but it had a steep learning curve. Right. So, I mean, if you're a developer and you develop a certain language, how that you some people might adapt to it and some people might not. But there was another wind that caught Vue. So actually, Vue didn't just explode in Silicon Valley; it exploded in China as well because not because, but Vue was actually Chinese, and the documentation of Vue at that time was also done in Chinese as well. So there was a lot of support of like support for Chinese developers by Ivan Yu to adopt Vue. Right. Let's ignore this. So yeah, another interesting point is that Vue is not backed by any tech giant, and there are no corporate mandates. So I mean, it's a kind of interesting point because there are some speculations that major corporations actually like control what version goes out to the public and what version gets released and what version does not get released, right? But there is no like kind of this control over Vue.js. Vue.js is a JavaScript framework primarily used for UI developments, which was its primary purpose for websites and SPAs. Single page applications. We'll cover what these are and how they work later on. Vue.js' main feature is its ability to connect the DOM to the Vue instance, which creates the model view model architecture. We'll understand this one later, where we'll understand the reactivity system of Vue and how it is compared to the React's virtual DOM comparison. So we'll go through these complex topics later on. Another interesting thing is that Vue is a progressive framework, not a library and not entirely a framework. So if there are a lot of wordings here, but we'll go through it one by one. So if you know this, that React is actually a library and Angular is actually a framework. And what makes React a library and Angular a framework is answered below. That Angular is a framework because it comes with batteries included. What this means is that once you install the Angular CLI and start a new project, it automatically installs the core framework, routing, forms, and other important things that you will need during the development of your project, right? It comes straight out of the box, right? You don't need to manually set up anything. You don't need to set up testing frameworks. It'll just pre-install everything. It sets up TypeScript, it sets up build configurations and everything, right? You're all sorted. In contrast, React is actually strictly classified as a JavaScript library, specifically focusing on building UI components. Nothing is included, everything is third party. So what does that mean is React was actually developed by Facebook, right? And every person who whose project is in React might have already installed or used React Router DOM at some point for routing of the pages, and it's actually a third party library. Yeah, so it is a library that you can progressively adapt, but it requires developers to integrate third party libraries for features like routing and state management. Now, Vue, on the other hand, sits in the middle of both of them. Uh, the term progressive that we used initially refers to its design philosophy of being incrementally adoptable rather than an all or nothing commitment. Vue allows you to opt in for features as your project grows. Uh, so basically, every tool for Vue is provided officially by its core team. For routing, for the core logic, everything is developed by its core team. And so we don't either have to rely on the third party libraries, and we neither have to commit to the entire ecosystem as soon as we start. So that is this point that you can integrate Vue in actually layers. So there's a Vue core layer where this is actually just the library mode, where we drop the Vue into existing project via simple script tag without changing the rest of our application, and then we can start using Vue components. The other thing is framework mode, where as complexity increases, we can progressively adopt official Vue tools for routing and state management and build systems like White. Right. So that was pretty much it about Vue for the first chapter. And if you like the video, please consider liking and subscribing. There are a lot of content that we are going to cover later on, like single page applications, Vue's reactivity system, and a lot of other things. And we are gonna actually see Vue working live in action. So if you liked it, please like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.